Next on Life Focus.
It was a full-blown frenzy. It was a bubble. And all the numbers show that people were getting crazy loans.
Crazy loans at crazy rates that created incredible cash flow for the brokers.
We would change people's jobs. We'd get licenses for them. You just knew how to manipulate the credit application.
The subprime mortgage spell hypnotizes homeowners, convincing them they could afford more.
The true state is that we were in deep trouble. I mean, we were in deep debt.
It was almost like you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about finances.
To be stressed every week or every month about how am I going to pay this bill, or where am I going to live, or what am I going to drive if my car breaks down. I didn't want to live that way.
Dealing in debt. Next on Life Focus.
Life Focus is sponsored in part by the Salvation Army, also sponsored in part by Porchlight Counseling Services, the Cassid Foundation, in memory of Elizabeth, Peter, Hank, Sam, Joe, and Ben Willis. CADCOR, connecting communities to reduce substance abuse and violent crime. And the Edgar and Elsa Prince Foundation, a civic-minded organization supporting the community through faith.
Are you touched by something you saw or heard on this program? Join us today in bringing the hope we have in Christ to viewers around the world. We would love to hear from you by contacting us at www.lifefocus.tv, where you can request prayer, sign up for our newsletter, or submit a story idea. And if you provide a gift of any amount, we will send you this free gift of 101 Bible promises for your every need. Every card offers encouragement to bring you closer to God and find the answers you've been searching for. At the same time, you'll be helping others learn how our prayers to Christ bring solutions to our lives. Visit our website at www.lifefocus.tv and hit the donate button. Thank you for partnering with us and allowing us to continue this ministry, telling powerful stories of where faith and life intersect.
Hi, I'm Dan Meyer, and welcome to Life Focus. In the last few years, we've seen our economy racked by a crisis that began as a subprime mortgage frenzy, a whirlpool of economic events that sucked our country into a financial hole. Today, you're going to meet a man who says that he profited from this financial flurry, only to find himself suddenly on the bottom of the crash.
I saw this disaster coming years ago, and I was just a salesman.
Joe Schiller was a prominent salesman in the Windy City who went by the name Joe Chicago.
And Joe Chicago was the sort of the king of the city as far as real estate goes. That was my niche, and that was how I could be important.
In his quest for importance and success, Joe Chicago got involved in the mortgage industry, selling the kind of mortgages that would later spark America's financial crisis.
We'd go out and to people that were had never thought they could get a loan, and we'd say, I can do this for you, and they're like, okay, what do I need to do?
Schiller and his team would get busy, creating the kind of application for a home loan that he knew the banks would accept.
Banks told us it has to look like this, and if you want, you can make it look like this. We would do fake money orders for 12 months. We would just whiteout stuff is the easiest one. We would change people's jobs. We'd get licenses for them. You just knew how to manipulate the credit application and the mortgage application so that it would get them the most money they could.
Ill-gotten money blinded those filling out applications to create a corrupt system.
Everybody was covering their eyes because there was so much money. It was so much money. If you could get it, and you didn't have to lie too much, it was okay, because that's just the way the world works.
At times, Schiller was making up to $10,000 a week, selling subprime mortgages and getting a percentage of each one. But, says financial expert Chuck Bentley, Schiller wasn't alone.
It was a full-blown frenzy. It was a bubble. And all the numbers show that people were getting crazy loans.
The problem with such crazy loans, says Bentley, is that most people would never be able to pay them back.
Some people called some of the loans liar loans. You don't even have to document your income. Just state a number and you'll qualify by what you believe your income is going to be. Adjustable rate mortgages came into play where people were having very low payments up front and then their rates would change. And so we saw this huge amount of home ownership happening with people who truly were not qualified.
There was an even deeper problem, one Bentley sees as a spiritual issue, a push for more and more material goods regardless of the long-term consequences.
The world says that you can have it now. That's a primary motivator. Have it now. Debt allows you to sort of circumvent the process of slowly accumulating the money to buy something with cash. It allows you to presume upon the future, and everybody wants it now.
But we both did fall in love with this house. I knew it was a stretch for us to make this payment that we were going to come up with. I thought, well, perhaps it's going to work out okay, and as long as Hal can keep doing this and this, and I can keep doing that and that, it's kind of like, okay, God, here's our plan. Oh, by the way, make it happen.
We believed that this is the house that God had brought to us and put in front of us, and this was the house that he wanted us to be in. And so because we wanted it so, or I did, I probably wanted it more than Dee did. We went through every door, just forcing them open until we made the deal.
At first, things seemed fine.
I'd started a home repair business, which grew from a home repair to a remodeling to additions to eventually building custom homes in the area.
We created terms that made it appear to be no big deal. And I think that's the prevailing attitude, that that's normal, it's no big deal, there's nothing to fear about it. I can always restructure, I can always get another loan, I can always get another credit card. And so we've lost that sense that this is actually dangerous.
Hal ignored the danger signs. For example, he made a little profit when the homes he built sold. But the money coming in seemed to disappear as fast as he could make it.
It was just, oh, okay, well, we got $100 in the checking account, let's spend $100. And that's just, worry about tomorrow. Kind of like the Scarlett O'Hara thing, I'll think about that tomorrow.
Eventually, they could no longer ignore the problem. Though their situation looked fine on the outside to family and friends, the true state of their lives was far different.
The true state is that we were in deep trouble. I mean, we were in deep debt. We were constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
We woke up one day and it was $50,000 plus. And, it's like, oh my gosh, here it is.
Realizing they were $50,000 in debt was a wake-up call for Hal and Dee Shaw, who had already lost one home to foreclosure. But the truth is, it wasn't the money itself that was the problem.
Our communication level on our finances was just not at a good place at all. He was raised in a world that didn't talk about finances. The dad took care of everything. I was raised in a world where we had to watch our pennies, and I had a mom who believed in savings, and that's what she did. And so we just came from two different worlds.
There were a lot of times that I would say, let's go do this, and Dee would say, well, we don't have the money. And I go, what are you talking about? I just gave you, big check.
I would be mad that there was never enough. When are we ever going to get out of this? How come we can't save any money? How can we help our kids?
I didn't consider her wishes, her desires. So a lot of resentment and bitterness had built up. It really drew us to a place to where there was almost a separation. We literally had to come to grips with either we're going to come together and work together and figure this thing out, or we're going to split.
One of the important things in this foreclosure crisis is I've seen people sort of go down with the ship. I've seen families who lose their home also lose their sense of identity. It ruins their marriage. I think that's the bigger tragedy than losing the home.
I need some new shoes for my class.
When Michelle and Trevor Thomas tied the knot, Michelle knew one thing. She didn't want money to destroy her marriage.
When I was growing up, my parents financed cars, homes, vacations, pretty much everything.
And while her parents seemed to have everything, Michelle realized that wanting it all on credit comes at too high of a price.
I knew that it was stressful on them. They argued about it, and I didn't want to be that way when I grew up. I knew that I wanted to be different.
But there was one important thing Michelle didn't know about her new husband, Trevor.
I didn't really know the extent of his debt. He'd be like, oh, we'll talk about it after we get married or whatever, you know, so I didn't really know. And when we sat down after we got married and worked out, you know, all the details of all of what he owed, it was very stressful.
Michelle was really stressed early in our marriage, financially speaking. She had a much better long-range view of things. She knew that once we started having children and those sorts of things, that she wanted to be at home, a stay-at-home mom, and that we would, you know, mostly rely on my income.
So the couple began using a monthly budget to help to pay down their more than $25,000 in consumer debt. But Michelle wanted more than that.
Michelle began talking about, you know, maybe in our future, you know, owning our home debt-free and owning, you know, our cars debt-free, not having those burdens anymore. I got a little uneasy at that point because I didn't think there was any way possible for that to happen.
Chuck Bentley, CEO of Crown Financial Ministries, specializes in making the seemingly impossible possible when it comes to finances and getting out of debt.
The idea behind the ministry was to teach people what the Bible said about money. There are thousands of financial principles dealing with money and possessions.
Those principles can be summed up in 4 little words, says Bentley, beginning with work.
The first principle is the principle of work. Man was designed to work. We actually are made, we were put on this earth to be productive, to be innovators, problem solvers. We're fulfilling our purpose.
Michelle and Trevor had this principle down. Trevor worked as a teacher and Michelle as an administrative assistant. But they agreed that one day her work would focus on staying at home, raising and caring for their children.
Secondly, we teach that our role and responsibility is that as a temporary trustee. We are not owners. Most people see their purpose as accumulation and building wealth.
Bentley says that releasing that desire to own and instead manage our property and finances helps us to make responsible financial decisions.
Because you can't continue to go into credit card debt month after month after month. You'll never climb your way out of that. So you have to make some tough choices and maybe sacrifice a little bit in the short term so that you have that peace later on.
And the third step, says Bentley, is the principle of giving.
Giving is the highest use and priority of resources. We're actually more fulfilled, we're happier, our souls are more content if we live our life to be givers. It breaks this materialistic grip that all the advertising that we absorb and all the media impressions we absorb that say, you're only going to be happy if you have this.
As Michelle and Trevor committed to applying the principle of giving, they witnessed a huge transformation in their lives. The fourth and most difficult principle is saving.
I don't need to save because I've got credit available to me, I can get another credit card, I can refinance. I don't really have to save.
For decades, instead of saving, Americans took out loans at rates too good to be true.
But the scripture says that we should go to the ant and be wise. The ant doesn't have a ruler or an overseer, but it saves during the harvest, puts a portion aside for the winter when times aren't going to be good. Well, that's just common sense, of course, but yet we don't do it.
And Joe Chicago was right there in the middle of it.
I often say it was a race to the bottom. And the people who are uber successful are willing to sort of bend the rules to the maximum. And you can always find a way to bend them further and further and further. And then it's very tempting to continue to bend them because that's who you become, as a person who can bend the rules the most.
But while most Americans were grasping for the cheap credit that was often linked to compromise, Michelle and Trevor were charting a far different course: to get out of debt as quickly as possible.
Our rent, our car payments, our utility bills, all of the necessities. And we paid all of that out of Trevor's income. We used all of my income to pay on the smallest debt that we had. And so that was a big chunk going toward that smallest debt, and it was paid off very quickly.
Then they used Michelle's income to pay the next largest debt. Using this snowball effect, this couple found themselves debt-free within 14 months.
But then we made the huge step of the commitment to live the rest of our lives completely debt-free.
That meant that when the couple decided to stop renting and buy a house, they made another radical choice.
We actually moved in with her grandparents, her dad's parents.
Though the couple had only a few hundred square feet to live in, after almost 2 years, they had saved $40,000, enough to break ground on a piece of land Trevor had bought prior to their marriage, but not enough to complete the entire construction. Their builder gave them an idea.
He had the idea of us building a basement because of the shape of our lot. And then we thought, well, we could do that pretty inexpensively and then maybe live in the basement for a while.
18 months later, after finishing one room of the house at a time as they could pay for it, Trevor and Michelle moved to the upstairs of their home entirely debt-free.
We have no mortgage, we have no car payments. We do use credit cards and that sort of thing, but we pay those off every month. We have no loans with any institutions, and we've been that way for probably 12, 13 years.
To not owe a dime to anyone seems almost impossible. According to Associated Press, 75% of Americans are in debt, and 40% owe more than $50,000.
There's nothing really miraculous about what we did. I mean, there was no miraculous provision or anything like that. It was just kind of slow and steady and hard work and applying, just those sound money principles that we learned.
I don't think you have to be completely debt-free to live at peace, but as you are on the journey toward that, it's so encouraging.
Michelle and Trevor Thomas know that living completely debt-free isn't for everyone. However, the principles for managing money they learned can transform lives and marriages if we let them, as Hal and Dee Shaw were about to find out.
The IRS was chasing us. Our credit card, all of our debt folks was chasing us. We were just being chased, and we were at the end.
The Shaws already lost one home to foreclosure and on the verge of losing a second. With their business crumbling and the IRS pursuing payment, they had no idea how they would ever feel financially free.
When I realized, and we realized how much in debt we were, things started happening so quickly.
Hal confided in his pastor, who encouraged him to make some changes in his life.
Just was totally broken. And then came home, and it was shortly after that that I went to Dee, and I said, you've got to know that I'm for us. You've got to forgive me. We've got to make a decision here to either come together or not.
Hal's pastor suggested he meet with men from his church every week, men who would help him pull out of his financial state. With their help, the couple knew they had to make some drastic changes.
We realized that the business had to be shut down, and that was scary. That was frightening, because it was like, okay, what's Hal going to do? All we've ever done is construction.
They also realized they needed to sell their beloved home, that was putting them further and further into debt.
We put the house for sale on a Thursday.
By Sunday, they received an offer.
They came and saw the house in the disarray. They put an offer on the house when they walked out the front door.
Now Hal and Dee had to be out of their home in 3 weeks, and Hal had no job. That's when an HR director from a national company approached him.
Michael said, "Have you ever considered being a financial advisor?" And I literally laughed. I mean, I didn't know a stock from a bond. I mean, I never invested a penny. We just took what we earned and paid bills and did, made all the wrong choices. And I said, I wouldn't have a clue what to do with it.
Despite his honest assessment and lack of credentials, the company hired Hal as a financial advisor in training. Not only that, but that very weekend, friends offered this couple a place to live in their basement.
The beauty of it was we got more for the house than what we anticipated, which was good. And so we were able to pay off almost everything. So we still had some credit card debt, but we paid off the majority of it because of the house. And then we worked for those next 2 years about getting that credit card paid off.
Still, moving into the basement of a friend's home after living in a 2,000 square foot home wasn't easy.
Contentment doesn't come natural, so you have to learn it. Paul would say, I've learned to be content whether, well-fed or hungry, in plenty or in need. And we were experiencing all of that. And so we were able to say, this is a learning experience. We were able to purpose, to be intentional about being content.
Worked out good.
Yeah, it's just worked out perfect. And it's neat to be able to come back, Bob and Lynn open their house again.
The loss of 2 homes, closing down a family business, and 3 years spent living in a friend's basement. But Hal and Dee say it's been worth it all.
All of my subcontractors, without exception, are clients now. Many of the people that I built for are clients.
More importantly, learning how to handle their money saved their marriage.
I mean, we went from a complete secular worldview that, it's ours, we do what we want, and with no consideration for others, to our finances actually have become, this isn't her stuff, it's not my money, it's not even ours, that everything belongs to God.
I tried to do life based on my best abilities and my ability to manipulate and my ability to work the system.
Meanwhile, Joe Chicago was experiencing change of his own as the mortgage industry started to crash around him.
So here we are 20 years later and I'm broke. And I have lost everything and I am what happened. And I am embarrassed and my family's finding out about it because bill collectors are starting to, Joe's not picking up his phone. You know Joe Schiller? And they're calling my house, my family's house.
Almost overnight, this young broker living the high life felt the crash. And like the clients he swindled, lost everything.
Things just start going south. And I'm trying to fill a hole, so to speak, with a lot of money. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Soon, even his marriage fell apart, and Schiller returned back to his childhood home.
So I went back to my hometown in Elmhurst with my tail between my legs and fairly embarrassed that, didn't you leave 12 years ago to go do something for yourself? And my mom just was so happy. She's like, we are gonna go out for lunch every day. My son is home. Basically said that. She didn't even care about anything.
His parents even offered this prodigal son a place in the family business. Compared to the lucrative money he made in the past, it didn't at first seem like much.
So here I am with nothing going on in a little rinky-dink real estate office that used to be big, but it's sort of run its course.
But then, after a week, his family's real estate business received its biggest break when a high-end broker bought Schiller Real Estate and offered Joe a job he couldn't refuse.
I'm there for a week. I get put in the best desk at this new company, Koenig & Stray, which is high-end, A lot of money, all new computers. I'm given the highest commission split. I'm given 26 offices to use. I'm given just this gigantic opportunity to go back out there and go back into real estate. Like, it couldn't have been easier. I mean, I can't have more stuff to work with than I have. So I feel like I've been given, again, another go at this at a much more mature level, and sort of the capacity for God to sort of say, you're one of my warriors, and I want you out in the field, and I want you to represent, I want you to show people what I can do. I want you to be the guy. And people are, you can be a big man for Christ. You are 6'9", you know. So stand up.
6'9" Joe Chicago found a better way, as did the Thomas family and Hallen D. Shaw, a way that brings true success and deep fulfillment. But make no mistake, in a world that says more is better and get it any way you can, choosing sound financial principles is an uphill climb. More about the financial steps they followed and tips on how to manage money can be found on our website. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Dan Meyer, and I hope to see you again next time.
Our ministry is made possible by your generosity. Join us today in bringing the hope we have in Christ to viewers around the world by contacting us at www.lifefocus.tv. With your gift of any amount, we will send you this free gift, 101 Bible promises for your every need. Every card will provide encouragement to bring you closer to God and find the answers you've been searching for. Visit our website and hit the donate button. Thank you for your support of Life Focus Television.
Telling stories of hope is made possible by generous viewers like you. More information on this program or how to order this and other episodes can be found online at lifefocus.tv. Please refer to the name of the program on the screen. Life Focus is sponsored in part by the Salvation Army, also sponsored in part by Porchlight Counseling Services, the Cassid Foundation in memory of Elizabeth, Peter, Hank, Sam, Joe, and Ben Willis, CADCOR, connecting communities to reduce substance abuse and violent crime, and the Edgar and Elsa Prince Foundation, a civic-minded organization supporting the community through faith. Pricing and ordering information for a DVD copy of this program are available on our website or by phone.